everybody again. Welcome to Our Black Agenda, Our Black Slate. Thanks for tuning in here today. We got a special guest here today, running for judge over here. I'm gonna let her tell a little bit more about herself, my good friend, Miss Melissa Morris. But thanks everybody for tuning in. You know, we always talking about the solutions. Make sure you go follow Our Black Slate. Make sure you go buy Our Black Agenda, A Guide to Black Power. Learn the levers, the things that hold us back, and the things and information to help you further our community. But definitely go check it out. Definitely get the book. Even if you don't read it, look, go get it so we can eat off it. Go ahead and buy it anyway.
Use it as reference.
What'd you say?
Use it as a reference.
Yeah. Look, Coaster, I don't care what. Look, we eat from you buying it, but we appreciate it. But again, make sure you go follow us on the YouTube channel, Our Black Slate, and on Instagram, Our Black Slate. But let's get here started. I'll let her introduce herself, what she do. My good sister here, let them know who you are.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Melissa Marie Morris. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I'm currently a judicial candidate for the 263rd Judicial District Court. It's a criminal district court in Harris County.
Come on, okay.
I am so happy to be here. I am so proud to see what you have done with this place. I hadn't been here since pre-pandemic, but you are definitely busy.
I appreciate it. Look, she was with us even before we was having the regular community meetings at Shape. So, you know, I appreciate you even staying tuned in, staying plugged into the community. You know, look, she didn't even came and volunteered before. So look, she's not above volunteering and getting her feet dirty, getting her hands dirty, and making it happen in the community. But let them know about what you're running for. Let them know, you know, some things about what you're running for.
I appreciate that. Absolutely, I'm not above volunteering because service is in my heart, and that's why I'm running for a judicial district judge. I have been a criminal defense attorney only, predominantly in Harris County for the last 15 years, and that's what I've done my whole adult life. And just based on the fact that I have practiced criminal defense, and based on my clientele, which is my community members, my family, my friends, I represent the underserved and the left behind and the forgotten. Sure. And I see that the wheels of justice tend to crush us. They don't tend to work for us. And as Thurgood Marshall said, mere access to the courtroom does not ensure fair process. And maybe I misquoted that a little bit, but I'm paraphrasing a little bit. But you know, after attending Thurgood Marshall School of Law, plug, certainly I learned that it is my responsibility to my community to be a social engineer. And so in the last year or so, we have seen how political... Busy man.
Right.
We've seen how the failure of political scientists can be almost as deadly as the failure of medical scientists. And so I decided to step up to the plate and bring my life experience and my criminal defense experience, my career experience, to hopefully to the bench to make the Harris County residents more safe. And what I mean by more safe is safe from each other,
right,
or you know, the outliers, the criminal aspect, and also safe from the overreach of government. Because what I've noticed is that, or what I've learned over the last 15 years, is that the criminal defense justice system, or I'm sorry, not criminal defense, but the criminal justice system only works when the state is aggressively going after someone, right, and the defense attorney is zealously defending the process,
right,
the constitutional rights of everyone.
Did you always know that that's something that you wanted to do, or you feel like you kind of developed this fight throughout the jobs and things that you kind of were doing throughout your experience?
So the seed was planted very early. When I was about 7 years old, my dad's best friend was an attorney, and I'd asked him for a candy bar, and he gave me $10, and I was like, "Ooh, attorneys eat good candy bars. I need to eat $10 candy bars."
Good candy.
So I said, you know, fair enough, that's what I'll be. And then when I went to high school, my dad actually was sentenced to 3 years in the federal penitentiary for selling drugs. And so I got a first-hand glimpse of what happens to families, what happens to children whose parents or whose family members are, you know, caught up.
Sure.
And so my passion for the law started to shape more so wanting to be the person that could have maybe saved my dad.
Sure.
And so when I was in law school, and my dad pushed us, of course. My brother is an attorney as well. He's a civil rights attorney in Arkansas.
Okay, look.
But he pushed us both, absolutely. And he died while we were in law school. but he knew that we were going to be lawyers and he was proud of us. And so my passion comes homegrown. Like I wake up every day, and if I couldn't imagine my own dad in a cage, I probably couldn't fight as hard.
And you know what? You know what's funny about what you said is how you bring up, because I feel like my dad was he was in the community, always a big community actor, but he wasn't in it the same way we are in it.
Right.
He was just more of being, nice, kind, giving good deeds in the community. And it was funny because he never actually got to see this side of me.
Right.
And I say that all the time because I'm like, he took it there, but I feel like we taken it to another level of community service and really getting involved and really getting involved in the fight and holding ourselves accountable as well as other folks that's in those positions.
Yeah.
And I can say my dad did not once ever talk about politics,
yeah.
even though we was in the community and it affected him and where we were around. But I feel like if we didn't see an immediate turnaround in what we thought we were doing, then it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Everybody was living off survival. Everybody was thinking about their day-to-day needs. You got kids, and I think that kind of took premise over everything else. So what do you say keeps your drive going of wanting to keep doing stuff like this? Because obviously, you're good without it and keep, in your practice. What makes you want to fight this fight even more in different realms?
I want to affect more people's lives on a bigger platform. It is rewarding and sometimes daunting to fight for each family, to fight for each person. And although that has been a valuable experience for me, I would like to create policies in at least my circle of influence. If I have a bench of 1/22nd of the Harris County residents who might be charged with crime, at least my compassion and my conscientiousness and my understanding of, all of the things that affect criminal behavior and all of the things that affect human behavior, that I could at least affect more people's lives on a greater scale.
So I asked you this, and one thing that actually caught me off guard when I was at a meeting, and one of the, what do you call the lawyers, the public defender's office, and they said that they are capped to 150 cases per year here in Harris County. Do you have anything to do with affecting them getting more cases and things of that nature? Because I feel like that's pertinent. Why are our public defender's office, being excluded, having 15% or less of the cases throughout the year, and all these people getting the money, and especially knowing that people are just accepting the charges without really fighting because they don't have the money, they don't have the time to sit in jail.
Yeah.
So sometimes they'll just plea out just because it's more convenient for their lives.
Yeah.
What are some things that you feel like not only you but us as individuals could do to kind of help push some things like that along?
So I think that we should hold our elected officials accountable because judges are elected by the people. And this particular bench that I'm running for, the policy that's in place at this moment, I'm not gonna say it's a policy, but the practice that has been in place during the term of the incumbent judge has been to appoint less than 1% to the public defender's office. And I personally know a lot of the attorneys in the public defender's office, and they are some brilliant legal minds.
For sure.
And they are capable. And I remember when I first started practicing, it was almost a running joke that when people would answer docket call, you would answer docket call with the name of your attorney, and people would, stand up, present, Melissa Morris is my attorney, or they would stand up, court appointed. And you would think, you're facing something so serious, and you don't even know your lawyer's name, which means your lawyer has not spent any time with you, or not to speak of. And you're trusting this person to navigate you through an adversarial legal process that could end your life.
Right.
End it.
That's
Ruin
too
it.
important.
Mess it up. And you don't even know the name. It's scary.
For sure.
And so when you're talking about the public defender's office, where you have people who are fighting zealously, and this is what they do on salary, and so they only handle a manageable amount of cases. They're not hustling for every dollar because they get paid the same amount every Friday or whatever it is.
Right.
And so they can focus on the work, and they can focus on the process and protecting it, and that protects everybody.
Sure.
So when you're holding your judges or your judicial candidates accountable, ask the questions. What do you intend to do as far as indigent defense? It's very important that people who
Indigent defense.
indigent defense. It's very important to find out where that judicial candidate stands on indigent defense. I believe that you should have capable attorney.
For sure.
No matter your ability to pay. Because a lot of crimes are, prompted by desperation.
Definitely.
And poverty. And so if you are, prone to crime because of your financial situation, then certainly you're not going to be able to get charged and then go in there and represent or get someone to represent you for an obscene amount of money.
Right, and I get it. I guess my thing is, if it's so much crime in places like Chicago, why do bait trucks and leave trucks of Nikes out to see who's going to steal them? Like, I feel like if it's so much crime, we don't need to perpetuate it in that manner. And I told somebody, I knew a friend that used to work at Rice University. I ain't gonna say no names, but he told me that they even did bait bikes at Rice.
Yeah.
So they don't have nothing to do, so they gonna sit a bike out and see who gonna steal it.
Oh, there.
Like, you ain't got nothing else to do?
Justice means fairness.
Right.
And so you're starting off, you're just like, how many clients of mine, I can't even count how many have said, I've never got a chance to tell my story. Because when you're charged with something, all it is an allegation. It's a police officer believing an allegation is reasonable and credible. And then now the great state of Texas and all their minions and all their flying monkeys or whatever it is, all of their power comes after just you and your attorney. And that is such a great responsibility. And so if you're overworked or if you can't afford, to take a case for a pro bono or for a reduced fee, then this person is, relegated to either whatever the judge of that bench believes that is an indigent defense attorney, a reasonable appointment, or the PD's office if they appoint, or nothing.
Right. I think what really happens is, I think most of us really can't fathom real injustice to ourselves until it really happens to us. And I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, I just feel like most people don't really experience a grave unfairness. We may feel like some stuff unfair, but not to the point where, we feel like we just need to go tell the world about it. And I think that's kind of what it is. Most of these things don't hit us. And I told somebody one day, I was in high school and somebody actually broke my locker. We had to wear the same thing underneath our football clothes. And somebody broke my locker, stole my stuff out of there and everything. And our coach required that, like, under your stuff. He don't care, no excuses. And he made me run for it because he said somebody got to pay for it. And I just thought that was just so the most unfair. What?
But that is a perfect example of sometimes how it goes. Somebody got to pay for it. I find that when I'm like picking a jury, I ask this question: how many of y'all walked in here and said, "What did he do?" Or "What did she do?" When you saw them in that scene, what did he do? What did she do? Because it's human nature to say, I'm not going to ever be in that position. I can be in this position as a juror. I can be in this position watching it on TV. I can be watching these crime dramas and, but that's somebody else's life. But all it takes is an allegation for you to be down there at 1200 Franklin, and you better hope that there is somebody on the bench or somebody in the well of the courtroom fighting for the fairness of it. Because you'd rather 1,000 guilty people go free than one innocent person go to prison.
I just think sometimes we don't see it to that severity. And I tell you, we have an older guy come pick up trash here all the time. Come walking, he pick up trash at all the businesses. He got an ankle monitor on. And just the other day, we realized that we didn't see him for a long time. And he said that he was picking up trash at the daiquiri shops, and they told him that he was at a liquor store, and they put him in jail for 60 days.
Yep, and he lost everything probably.
No. Luckily, he was already on government assistance, everything. So, it wasn't like, he just an older dude, he don't work, but he called himself helping our businesses. He loved the Lord, and he said, hey, he gonna come pick up trash for everybody. But I just thought that is a way of gross unfairness. Think how much you would doubt what you're doing if you feel like you're doing good things for people and then they put you in jail for it. You just feel like you just getting beat down. And I think most of us haven't really experienced that type of unfairness. So we out of sight, out of mind. So I would say this: what are some of the things that you feel like individuals could do in the courtrooms? Because even when it comes to jurors, I'm sure people's question is, how are these juries always end up all white? Because I get put out the first minute in there. Black beard gone.
Get out of here. Well, I advise for people to show up. That's number one.
For sure.
Do not try to get out of it. Go. We need you. We need you there. And then be quiet. Don't do a whole bunch of talking. People think that if they talk, then perhaps, well, I don't know what.
It's like first 48, they tell it on themselves.
Yeah, like, you raising your hand and telling them all your strong opinions. No.
That's the worst.
It needs to be that when an attorney is picking a jury, they're picking a tribe. They're picking the people who are going to relate to the story they're telling. It's a human connection. Who's going to rock with me? Because you imagine that there's enough information on either side to justify any decision.
For sure.
So you want somebody to lean towards yours. So, for instance, if you have a 25-year-old black male, you want someone who understands at least the culture, understands that age range, that thought process, the slang. There was a time when when they see us, when they were mentioning wilding, and that changed everything. I had a colleague who was telling me a story about a prosecutor who was explaining that the reason that he was trying to explain to the prosecutor that the complainant or the victim was aggressive towards his client, and he was showing him text messages that said, if I see you, you gonna catch hands on sight.
Right.
So he was trying to explain catch hands on sight means that's an imminent threat. When I see you, I'm fighting.
They didn't get the
prosecutor
lingo.
did not get it and argued with him like, no, catch hands, that means something else. And I don't even know what the prosecutor thought it meant, but it changed whether or not he was offered probation, or changed whether or not he was offered a dismissal, because there's a fundamental misunderstanding. Well, when you're asking 12 people to make a decision whether somebody goes to prison or not, you want them to understand the conversation, the language, speak the language.
And that's crazy. I don't think most people think about it in that depth. Like, hey, if we using lingo through a text message that they're going to use against me in a court of law, and you not understand the lingo, that could have not mean a threat and you thought it was a threat, or it could have been a severe threat and you thought it was nothing. So yeah, every black person know catch hands on sight. First of all you gotta do is say on sight. It's over. So I think that's
important, right? And then once I watched an attorney read some of the victims' Facebook posts,
right,
and I recognized them as lyrics to rap songs.
Oh my God!
But because they were not in quotes, and because it didn't say as sung by Jay-Z or in my Jay-Z voice, it's yours. Oh, so the aggression that they were reading and the violence that they were reading, they were asking the jury to adopt as the victim. So the injustice goes both ways.
For sure.
People need to understand, or at least the attorney should say, objection, that's Jay-Z. But
he didn't know, probably. Look, it was just all bad all around.
Maybe he did. Maybe the judge was like, I need a limiting instruction, that's Jay-Z. Right. I don't know, but
see, but even you know to be able to handle that. Look, you my lawyer. Come on, catch these lyrics,
catch these ass. But yeah, so I think that's so important for us to say. You show up to jury duty because you can translate, and then when you get in the back, you can be the only one translating. Like, hey, let me just tell you, I know for a fact this means that, or it's important to know that your one voice, your one vote can change everything in a jury, because in Texas you have to have a unanimous decision on not guilty or on guilt or innocence. Well, let me not say innocence, because you're presumed innocent, and if they don't find you guilty, then you stay innocent as you walked in the door. But one person can say, I believe that they have not met the burden of proof to say that this person is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and therefore I'm not voting for guilt, and then the judge would have to declare a mistrial.
Right.
And anytime your client walks out the front door with you is a win, whether it's acquittal or not. And a lot of times when the state gets to a point where they get a hung jury, I mean, after all these hours of deliberation, they don't come back and try it again.
And I think that's important. I think a lot of us, I say me, my mom, people like this, like, we don't mind holding up a jury room. Like, we'll be there all day.
That's why they won't let me back there.
Well, look, I know that's why they would never pick me, but my mom has told me, you know, she've had everybody trying to convince her, and she'll be like, nope, not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't realize how many people were uncomfortable with bucking the system.
Yeah.
And because I watched this show, it was like a social experiment on YouTube, and I'm gonna make sure I send it to you.
Please do.
But it basically was saying, let's just say it had two different popsicle sticks. One was higher, and they say pick the number which one was higher through lower,
Right.
and you make the sequence. And people say, oh yeah, one is higher, one, and the other persons know that it's two, but she the only one that's on the panel that don't know that this is really a trick. So after about 2 or 3 times of that, they just start to pick whatever the group picks.
Go along to get along.
What? And that just blew my mind. I'm never a go along, get along type of person. But that just astounded me how many people, for one, not like me, and for two, that will sometimes, that's scary. You go in there and faith, know that people will go along with it just because that may be the societal opinion and pressure at the time. And that is, I don't want to have a jury like that.
Okay.
Stick to your quarrels.
I had one in Bastrop County. This case haunts me. In Bastrop County, these jurors deliberated for 8 hours. They came back with a unanimous decision, and I asked for the jury to be polled. This is the first time that I have asked for the jury to be polled, and somebody came back and said, that is not my verdict. Wow. It was one black man, the rest were white, and he had held up that jury for hours, and it was an assault on a peace officer case where my client had PTSD. A civilian shot at him first. He starts army crawling. He completely goes into, he's a combat vet, he completely goes into that place. And then when the police officer, a real uniformed police officer, tried to address him, he flipped him over.
Oh.
Just flipped him over.
Right.
That's it. Flipped him over, scratched his leg. So the one black guy has held out like, man, I don't think, I'm not comfortable.
Right.
So then when the jury was polled, everybody said that was my verdict. He comes and says that was not my verdict.
Wow.
So I asked for a mistrial. The judge ordered them to go back in the back. He came back, I had him polled, they came back with a unanimous verdict, guilty. I had him polled again. He had changed his decision. When I went outside, I found him on social media. And it's legal after it's all over.
It's all over.
And I asked, like, hey, what happened? He's like, I gotta live here. He looked around. There were 8 officers in the well of the courtroom.
Right.
And he felt like, y'all can go on home. Because, y'all can go on home. Y'all don't live here. But if I get stopped, I'm gonna get stopped by them. And now they know which one of me, which one of us said what we said, and so I gotta live here. He didn't say it wasn't his true verdict. He didn't say that they coerced me, but
he said he changed it because of whatever.
Yeah, I was able to infer that he was fearful of what was going to happen. And it's important to know you have the power, but it's important to respect the fact that some people do not feel that they have the power, and we have to do everything we can to make people comfortable enough to play their part, because it doesn't work if we don't.
For sure. And I tell people all the time, one thing that I've accepted doing the work that we do and doing the work that I do as well is I've given up that or let go that wheel of fear a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because in order to do what we're doing, you kind of have to be a little fearless. Not saying that fear don't mean I'm not scared of an anaconda, but that don't mean I'm going to tap one on the head.
Right.
I'm still going to be cognizant of what can happen and how it can happen, but that don't mean that that's going to deter me from going in the woods.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to be very leery when I go in the woods. So I think at the same time, that's what people have to know. Like, you have to go through this, because I done got threatened many a times. At the end of the day, I'm worried about the threats that I don't hear about. So all the stuff that's hoopla, that's bluff. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
So we have to you have to know that it's going to be scary. But at the same time, I do what I do for our people, and I know what the end result we need to happen.
Absolutely, because fear is a tool. I mean, it calibrates you. It helps you.
The tools.
Yes, it's one of the tools. Right, because it calibrates you. It helps you to know whether your decision is, safe. And all of our decisions won't be safe, but they may be right. And sometimes you have to overcome that fear. But it's the job of the government, it's the job of the people, the players in the criminal justice system, to make sure it's as safe as it can be and continue to perfect the system, because right now it is injustice. And right now we have to figure out how to change the players or change the roles so that everyone who accesses the courthouse has access to the justice that is supposed to be guaranteed.
Real talk. And I just think a lot of times, like in a fight, you do one or two things. When you get punched, either you bag up or you get in there.
Or you get in there.
So, you know, I think a lot of
and
us...
I've done both.
Look.
I've done both,
Yeah.
you know, here. There have been times where, you know, I won't say shamefully, but I'll say embarrassingly, I didn't step up when I should have, or I didn't fight as hard as I should have. And I know that every decision that I made, good or bad, affected somebody's life.
For sure.
And I had a classmate, not classmate, but she was a year ahead of me in college who I represented. She had a substance abuse issue. And she told me, if ever I test positive, leave me in jail. If they violate my bond, leave me in jail. Because this is gonna kill me. And she violated at some point a few months later. I held out, like, I'm not gonna go. You told me. And then she told me, like, it's your job, I will call the bar.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And then even, you know, almost indignant, like, okay, let me go get you a bond. And I go and I get her a bond, and she came home and she OD'd that night.
Wow.
That night. And when I went to her funeral, I slid down the wall because I felt like I had failed her. I had failed her parents. I almost felt unwelcome there when I'm looking at her daughter playing on her iPad while her mom's laying in the casket. I'm thinking, I did this to you.
For sure.
Although, you know, like my mom had to tell me, you can't always be the savior. You're just a tool. All things work together for the good of those who love God and call it according to His purpose. And sometimes you are a catalyst for bad.
For sure.
But I thought I was doing my job. I was doing my job, but there are times when I should have stood up, you know.
Sure.
And someone's life is always hanging in the balance. And I think that it's important to elect people who know that risk is carried by every person who walks in the courthouse. These are not, I was talking to a prosecutor earlier, and he wanted to try this case really bad. And I was like, hey, let me tell you something. This is a person's life. This is not a case. This is not numbers. Right. This is a 19-year-old boy. So we're going to talk like this is a 19-year-old boy, or we're not going to talk at all. You know, because at this point, now I'm grown now. And I
tell him.
And I can tell him now, and I know what I'm doing now. Right. But I had to make sure that he remembered. Because you're talking about 25-year-old prosecutors who are career-oriented. And that's not everybody, but I'm just saying, generally speaking, fresh out of law school, you have no worldview, no perspective. And you are looking
for the money and the position.
Yes, and wins and convictions, and you know, and so it's important for somebody on the other side to say, wait a minute, yeah, this person has been in CPS, you know, foster care, and lost her parents, and you know, has had to do. So the third theft doesn't make her dishonest. Right. It might make her desperate. When we figure something else out, you know, why would we then saddle her with a felony conviction, which felonies create a whole different class of people. And I noticed that in your book, in one of the chapters about the criminal justice system, you mentioned how disenfranchised, you know, felons become, because once you're labeled like that, it is most difficult to get everything, you know, where you live, everything. So it's important to remember that we're talking about even when people don't go to the penitentiary, even when they're on probation.
Right.
You know, felony convictions can change everything for that person and the rest of, you know, the people who rely on them and the rest of their life. In fact, there's a direct correlation between incarceration and early mortality. And then if you look at the disproportionate amount of black people and brown people in the penitentiary as, you know, as relates to how our population in the country, and if you can directly correlate incarceration to early mortality rate, and there's two ways that we're leaving, you know, society. We're leaving our communities first, and then we're leaving the earth.
For sure.
And so we have to take this seriously. We have to divert people from the penitentiary or from felony convictions, even felony convictions that don't necessarily keep you, or felony deferred adjudications who don't necessarily make you a felon or a convict, but it keeps you from obtaining certain licensing.
Which is even worse. Now you can give me the consequences of having a felony without even me really being charged and sentenced with that type of crime. And I think that's unfortunate. But like you say, you needed that experience though. If you didn't go through that, you wouldn't be the person to be able to fight for certain stuff. And I tell people, I don't take no losses.
Right.
I learn.
Right.
And when I learn through those learning lessons, guess what? I'm built, even you build strength for the next time that it needs to happen. So guess what? If you didn't build up that strength then, you know, you wouldn't have the strength to come in now and be like, hey, this is what is going to happen. This is what we're going to do. And sometimes, you know, it's unfortunate, but like, you know, she was right. You couldn't, if it wouldn't have been that time, then guess what? You would have to probably be in there 2 more times, 3 more times. Yeah. And, you know, but life happened the way it happens, but it's good that you learn from it and you want to do better. Like I tell everybody, a level of knowing comes with a level of doing.
Right.
So if you really say you know, then it's time to really do.
Right. Or as the old folks say, if you knew better, you do better.
Look. So in the coach that I tell you about, he even said, he said, practice don't make perfect. A perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah. And you know, I was listening to Stephen Colbert one time was saying that when you really learn to appreciate and be grateful for where you are also appreciative for the worst things that have happened to you.
For sure.
Because they play a part, you're a sum of all of your experiences. So even the suffering has a purpose. Mm-hmm. And even the times where you messed up, you know. Like Lil Wayne said, even players mess up.
Even players mess up.
But no, like those are very serious mistakes. And you have to make sure that you're taking each case seriously because they could all end in somebody's death or disaster.
For sure. Look, so one thing that we, you know, and we already spoke a little bit about the book, but everybody know, make sure we always talking about Our Black Agenda, Guide to Black Power. You can get this on ourblackslate.com, or you can come straight here to the Black Store here in Houston, Texas, and come scoop it up. We open 7 days a week. But we always, I make sure that we always want to give the solutions. You know, I never try to do anything unless we bring the solution to it. We don't like to just talk about stuff just to be talking about it. Or, you know, I'm always leading with the solutions and what we're trying to do. So I'm glad that, you know, you got the chance to see the progress from us being in other spaces, not have our own space, and guess what? Next year is going to be something even more grand. Yeah, every year. And we want to make sure that we support candidates like yourself and doing the things that we need to do to get y'all where y'all need to be. And I think not enough people pay attention to you guys' local races like we should. If we paid as much attention that we did to Donald Trump, to our local elections and the people that stay around us, we will be so much better off.
For sure.
All the way around of knowing what we do and in control of our own communities.
Right.
But
and to do that, you have to vote all the way down the ballot, because the local elections are the ones that affect the kitchen table issues, like your everyday, your brother, sister issues. And so the people who make decisions for your life, the people you are likely to be affected by their policy, are at the bottom of the ballot. So stay there, go all the way down. And then I just want to say this one thing, because I always like to say it. When every interaction with a police officer could end so terribly. I mean, we see it all over the news. But even if you don't get killed, there are a lot of things that you need to do when you're interacting with the police to not give them any reason to take you in.
Right.
But if for some reason you're about to get arrested, don't beg, don't speak, go to jail, be compliant, go to jail, call an attorney. And then if you were elected some good judges, then even if you don't have the money, you will have a good attorney.
For sure. And it's funny you say that, because all the young dudes I deal with, I guess they see the things that I do and they just know that I didn't have bad experiences with cops. And I tell them I've never had a bad experience with a cop. I say mainly for one, my emotions are in check. So you could never bring me out of my character. I haven't even never been suspended from school, let alone went to jail. So I say you can't bring me out of my character, because I know I'm gonna let you do whatever you want to do then, because I tell them you can't win that fight. That's like being in the teacher's classroom. I tell them, don't argue with the teacher, because you can't win that fight. As a matter of fact, they're not going to let you win.
Right.
So I say, do it. So we do it. Let them do what they do. Come home so we can handle it on the back end.
Right.
Because guess what? We're going to know who that cop was, what they badge number, where they are, where they hang out. Trust me. So at the end of the day, our job is to make sure that we get back to our spaces, and then we always going to handle it on the back end. Right?
Right, because I've never seen anybody get killed in a courtroom, like in the courtroom.
Right.
And what you're saying is absolutely correct, like absolutely correct, because you can't win when the power dynamic is that they have the entire state of Texas behind them. And so it ain't no fun unless the rabbit got the gun.
What? Look, and I'm never gonna let them take me out my character to have something to propose against me.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm so confident. I don't care if somebody, if you was to plant something on me, you gonna have to explain that being in my truck, like real talk. Cause Lloyd, what? I never
Right.
do drugs? What? Go to jail? You have some explaining to do. You have some proving to do.
Yeah.
Because look,
Because
no
that's not
history.
right. And then gone are the days where you tell your kids, if you go to jail, I'm not coming to get you. You better go get your kids.
What?
Like don't even create the desperation of trying to keep them. Now don't encourage them to go to jail. Of course.
Right.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying don't create the desperation that even
Sure.
if they are alleged to have done something, because all it takes is an allegation, if they're being arrested, that they need to in some way fight or run or defend themselves there.
Right.
You know, create the expectation that there's somebody who will keep me safe. There's somebody who will come and get me.
For sure. And then, you know, you don't want them to even be perpetuated, especially if they're innocent to all the different stuff in there. Because just being in there, you treat it different.
Yeah.
I've heard and seen guards that act nice on the outside, but get in there and feel like they can talk to people, individuals any type of way just because you're in that setting, in that crowd. And that's just how we treat each other in certain realms.
Yeah, and if you stay in jail 2-3 days, a week, 2 weeks, you lose your
What?
job. You might lose, and you know, a lot of people are 1-2 paychecks away from poverty. So you're talking about evictions, you're talking about losing families. So let's just be very careful with the fact that we're fragile.
Right. And since you said that, I'm gonna ask one. I always add one thing, and I know it's a lot of people that teach these days. You know, the indigenous stuff and exiting. One thing I say is you can't beat the system by exiting the system.
Right.
So we gotta understand, and you can't. We don't even control the roles. Even if y'all did exit the system, they can put in political parameters to stop that because you're not in political power in spaces. So I think we gotta think of a different way of being involved without being the normal way. A lot of people don't rock with Democrat, Republican. We get it, but there's so many other ways for us to be involved presently and get stuff done without directly being with anybody. So I think it's just a lot of times we just think, we have such a one-track mind on what we feel like things are and how they can be and how it needs to be done.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm adjustable.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
Yes, because we deserve to have our voices heard. Every one of us deserves to be safe,
For sure.
deserves to be whole and pursue our happiness and have opportunity and access to justice and everything that that everybody is that every citizen is promised. And so it's our job to ensure that the people who are protecting our liberties are the right people.
For sure. So before we get out of here, let them know one more time what you're running for, how they can find you, how can they support you, and so on and so forth.
Yes, I am Melissa Marie Morris, and I am running for the 263rd District Court of Harris County. Please follow me on Instagram at Melissa Marie for 263 or Twitter, Melissa Marie 263, and all of my information is on there. I hope to see you.
Oh yeah, again.
I hope to earn your support.
Come on, again, everybody that just tuning in, you can catch the full interview on YouTube. It'll be up in a day or so. Go to ourBlackSlate.com, buy the book, come to the Black Store, you can get the book, or on Amazon, all platforms. So definitely make sure that you pay attention. We always talk about solutions, and this is just not us talking. We always talking about people getting involved, especially if you're here in Houston. You got zero excuses.
No excuse.
It's a lot of people that's out here doing the work in every realm. I don't care if it's education, criminal justice, however, in every way that you're passionate in, come and give your time and expertise to the solutions for Black folks. Like I tell everybody, your skin is your ticket in. Let's get it done. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Catch us again. Exactly. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Thank you.